Dun, da, da. Here we are, show number one. Just go. We've been talking about doing this for a long, long time, right? I mean, it's
I know
since what was it, May? I guess it was May.
it is since
Um,
May. Yeah.
I am Jason Burkhart, Robot Dog Music on Instagram, and my companion cohort here.
Hi.
Introduce
Yeah, I'm
yourself.
Gareth. What? Yeah. Otherwise known as Plink and Plonk,
There you go.
which sounds kind of crazy to say, but yeah, that's
It,
me.
it looks so good in feed, right? And then you actually have
Yeah,
to introduce yourself that way. I had little business
I
cards
know.
made up. Did I ever show you that? I think I brought some.
Yeah, I think I've got
I
one.
had,
Pretty
yeah.
sure.
Doesn't it
Uh,
doesn't really look that good. And then of course there's Radar, who just woke up. Radar, come here. Radar is my general Eurorack companion most of the time,
there he is.
and Instagram loves puppies. So here we go. Okay, down you go. I'm sorry. So what are we doing? Why are we here? What are we talking about? Well, I'm going to be building a what is this? A Bastel Dynamo, because that's what I happen to have on the bench right now. But we're both modular synth, Eurorack, and general electronics DIY freaks. How's that?
Way of putting it.
Um,
It's a sickness.
this is going to be a very casual show going forward. I think it's basically an excuse for us to sit and chat about whatever's going on in the market, right? And that's pretty much what we do, what we're doing. Um,
Well, I think we were basically saying that there's a lot of talk about modular out there, but the DIY element hasn't really got a voice. So I think this is what and when we came together and met up that time, we just couldn't stop talking about it. It just seemed like a natural thing to want to do, basically, to just have some kind of we chat all the time on Instagram, and basically this seems like a perfect idea, especially with a live build and other little treats that we can do.
I should be getting going here, yeah. But yeah, and it's there's what the synth DIY guy on YouTube, who
Yeah,
does a decent amount. What's his name? I apologize. I don't remember. I do watch
King
the channel,
Kiss.
but
Yeah, I think it's King Kiss,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not quite sure.
Um,
Yeah,
and he
I,
does a
I'll watch it.
lot of good stuff, and he knows manufacturers and does some things, but the that's pretty much it. That's the only one I'm aware of anyway. And correct me if I'm wrong. But
I mean, like the same. Obviously, we all watch DivKid, and we know that some of these modules that Ben talks about, what you can get DIY, and and I celebrate the times when he puts one on there
oh, for sure.
because yeah,
when
because you
when
think
you
I can do
can,
that.
definitely do it. Not just because, I mean, I think I started because I could and because it was a cheaper option. I don't know how you actually
Yeah,
started.
that's what you tell yourself, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
okay.
think that.
I'm still telling
Yeah,
myself that.
I know. I mean, that was the thing for me. I realized, obviously, Eurorack is quite. It is expensive. There's no doubt about it. And anything you can do to make that easier, especially when you look at the price of initially, you look at the price of PCB and panels, and you see it as, wow, this is a real opportunity now to make something which isn't going to cost me the earth. And ultimately, that's the reason why I got into it.
Yeah, and honestly, I like to help people. I mean, I used to be in computer support. There seemed to be an awful lot of that as well. People that used to be in computers and don't want to touch computers anymore are all doing Eurorack. But I like helping people, and there's a lot of people that can't or won't do the DIY stuff, whether they're afraid of it or just don't have the time. And so for me to go out and build a few modules for people and get them into people's hands that otherwise wouldn't be able to get them, I think is kind of a nice thing to
Yeah.
be able to do.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, helping other people has been one of the major interests from my point of view because I mean, people who've helped me has been unbelievable. The amount of support you get from other like-minded people. I mean, people have literally, shown me in massive detail techniques when it comes to soldering. I pretty much learned all of my soldering off of this great guy called Dave, who's based up in north of England, who He's on Instagram. Um, and he's basically sent me detailed videos of specific techniques, all of his SMD soldering, which component, which tools he uses, what temperature of the iron, what what flux he uses. I mean, just the details which you really, it's so hard to get those. I mean, just getting the right tools
Sure.
is a massive difference.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have taken a number of electronics courses very, very early in my life. Um,
Yeah,
so I didn't need that kind of experience. And then, of course, I come from an engineering family, very,
oh,
very
that's
musical
lucky.
family and a very
Yeah,
engineering-based family. My
yeah,
grandfather built fine furniture. My father designs medical equipment. My brother is a flyer of drones for Hollywood, but he was doing it long before you could buy them for $400 on Amazon. You know, and
sure.
I was designing the interface circuits for. Some of the early, like, we'd take a DSLR and have to reverse engineer the remote so I could trigger it with a remote from the ground type of deal.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's cool, mate. So, what did you actually like? Do you do any kind of proper qualifications in it, or was it just literally being hobby based?
well, it was long before. I mean, it was right before the word drone came out in the U.S. mass media. So people
Yeah,
didn't even know what it was. It was just a camera we could fly around, and that was
yeah,
really kind of a useful thing for a lot of people. It was kind of the secret weapon for a while because nobody knew it
yeah.
existed, and then of course they all it all came crashing down. Um, he still flies occasionally, but I think he's into other projects, and of course I'm doing my music stuff. So we've all moved on, but I did have the electronics experience beforehand, and have written a fair bit of code for like microcontrollers and things over the years.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, is that what when you first got into? How did you actually get into modular then in the first place?
I will blame Mylar Melodies for that.
Yeah,
I was always into music stuff, geeky electronics things. I think the Korg Electribe was like my baby. I just love those devices. But the older ones,
yeah.
the
Which ones did you
the
have?
new gray one, the EMX and ESX were kind of like the epitome of the Electribe series, and
Yeah.
then they started going in a different direction, and I stopped kind of following them. But right about that time, I hit his video about the Metropolis,
Oh, yeah.
and that just ended it for me. I said I need that in my life,
Okay.
and so
They're
I
unbelievable.
started building a small rack, and bought a Metropolis, and then the rest is kind of history. Now I have giant racks of things.
So, what about the actual DIY side? What made you want to? How did you find out about the fact you could make them?
um, I think I was on Muff Wiggler, and reading through, and a couple of the modules were of course DIY only, specifically like the Ornament and Crime, the Klee.
Yeah.
The Klee is one of my favorite things in the universe as well, big long sequencer, and I built a couple of those early on. So everybody said it's the most difficult build. It's the most, well, I'm definitely building one. That's immediately what I said
Yeah.
to myself.
Was it Through I don't really.
It is.
I know
Yeah,
the
no, it is.
name. Oh,
It's just a time-consuming project. I think I actually have
yeah.
video somewhere of me building some of it. I had designs early on of kind of documenting my progress, and of course I got too busy building. Like now we're chatting, and I'm not doing a whole lot of building here, but I was going to
Was it a
document
kit? Was it
my journey, my modular journey, I think.
was it like? Did you first get when you first got into it? I mean, one of the things that really blew my mind was you have unless you buy kits, you're into learning about every single electronic component seemingly in the world to try and make because trying to make a module. I mean, I know many friends who have like on the ones when you've just got a PCB panel
Yep.
and this and they got the bag of the bag of capacitors turn up and they're like massive
Yep.
and can't use them or like the wrong wattage resistors or like
Oh,
I've
yep.
got
That.
it's like a classic and to be honest you no matter how methodical you think you could be that you're always going to make mistakes with those and I think that the kind of the amount of knowledge you got to take on initially it can be quite quite off-putting to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you find that, or did you from your background were you happy
No,
about
no,
it?
I make those mistakes like everybody else. I have
Yeah,
a nice little box here to remind me of said
yeah,
mistakes. It includes stuff like really, really, really tiny SMD components that I could never use. The dust, a couple of the wrong one. I mean, I think for the most part, the through hole stuff I do pretty well with. But the
yeah.
SMDs, I made a lot of mistakes when I transitioned to that. I need to let the dog out 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, I make those mistakes like everybody. There's no superpower to protect you from that. I think the nicest thing is that there are bombs available like that you can
Yeah,
just go on like for the ornament and crime. People maintain those things pretty regularly. I have found that there are cheaper options. So if you're out there
yeah,
and wanting to build an ornament and crime, then you can certainly do one for cheaper if you go and look for other components. Specifically displays. The displays are always way overpriced where they tell you to buy them
yeah.
from, but then they're also guaranteed. I do buy displays direct from the factories in China, and
Okay.
occasionally I will get one that is scratched or has dead pixels or doesn't work at all, and so I just toss those in the bin. But the price differential is so massive that it's worth it to just chuck those.
Makes sense. Yeah, because I've got a screen for an ornament and crime, and again, I just got it off eBay because I've got a I'm only buying one. I'm not buying enough for 30, like some people like to, which makes
Well, I'm
sense.
not doing
But
that again either, ever.
yeah,
If anybody wants to
yeah.
is curious about the story, and I will take it offline and tell you all about it, but I'm not doing that on stream.
I think the thing is for me, I think basically what I'm saying is that when I first got into it, I went down the route of very much. I went on to Thonk and basically I didn't really know what I was doing. I basically just, in fact, I emailed. I'm not, I emailed Thonk and I basically asked for recommendations, which probably annoyed them, but I did. I basically asked for, I want to make a VCA. Which one's good? There's probably, you
That's a
know,
dangerous
I got,
question because everybody's going to have an opinion.
yeah, I know, I know, but I think when you're first starting off, that even the fact that I know that everyone knows that you need loads of VCAs now,
Hmm.
but the reality is you don't. When you think about if you come from like a traditional synthesizer background, typically the VCA isn't always even labeled. There isn't. You're not even aware that the VCA is even there.
Sure.
It's kind of like you know what an oscillator is. You know
There's
what
at least one or two, but yeah, you're not gonna it's not gonna be specifically exposed, right?
Yeah, and you're kind of like it's a bit mysterious the VCA. In from if you come from a tradition, well, it was for me anyway. If you come from like, if you take a mini brute, um, you just think, well, what? I know that the sound's coming out of it, but I don't really know exactly what the VCA does, and you have to get your head around these concepts at a time when you're, trying to build a modular synth and making it, and you just don't even know what the criteria are for a VCA that you might want.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm not, I'm even now I'm still learning, like about DC versus AC,
Hmm.
whether or not it will process CV, what bias is, all these kind of things, which I'm slow just through constantly hitting my head against them. I'm learning about them,
But that's the
but
fun part, right? I mean, learning about it
yeah,
as well as getting something done.
but when we come back to the initial expense issue, when you're learning, it can be, it can be pricey if you don't know what you're doing.
Sure.
You can buy, I was speaking to a guy recently, and he bought like a whole bunch of branded modules, and then he just instantly sold them because he didn't get on with them. But he was sure that he wanted them in the first place, but so he bought a whole voice.
Right.
Now it's gone a completely different direction. Now, if you're buying that new, you're taking quite a large hit if you've got to resell it.
It didn't used to
So
be that way though. Even when I was starting, and that was still like 2014, 2015 time frame. Um,
yeah,
the used market has really changed. It used to be that you would, and this would benefit me really early on, is that you could buy it new, or even if you bought it used, and then resold it, you'd be guaranteed to get 90 to 100% of your money back, because people were just
yeah,
desperate for the modules. There weren't enough of them. There was never enough supply of anything that was even reasonably popular, and it really helped me a lot because I was kind of isolated. I mean, I'm still kind of isolated, but I was
yeah.
really isolated geographically. I was living in Hawaii. There are no modular stores. You can't go and try something without getting on an airplane and flying for 6 hours and going to LA. So I couldn't try anything. I watched a lot of YouTube. I read a lot of reviews, and then I would pull the trigger on something and hope that
Yeah.
it met my qualifications. And for the most part, I think I did pretty well. But there are a few,
So
for sure.
I've got this theory, right? If you look in someone's rack and you see a lot of Doppler stuff, silver paneled Doppler, chances are they've been around from the beginning. There's a lot of people, and even like now, you see these modules, and you just think, I'm sure that does what I want, but I'm not, but I can't be 100% sure.
Right.
Um, and you have to do a lot. It seems with the Doppler stuff,
And then
a lot
there's
of people,
modules that everybody says you absolutely need, and you actually
yeah,
don't know what they do at all, like maths.
maths. Is that what you Yeah, yeah. That is. I haven't got maths. I like the look of
Seriously, you
maths.
don't have one yet. You need one.
I've been looking into synth DIY
You
versions
absolutely
of
need
it,
one.
and
You don't have a modular until you have a
I've,
maths.
I've been looking at Rampage, obviously,
Yep.
uh, but I've made some Bafako stuff, and to be honest, although I don't mind doing um, SMD, I find those 8 watt resistors quite fiddly.
Ah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, you're used to working with through hole, and you think, oh, it's just through hole, and then you come across loads of these 8 watt. Yeah, yeah, like, and they can be quite. I've got like pretty. I've got potato hands. That's what the issue is.
sure.
And basically, when it comes to 8 watt, me and my hands, we have issues. You do all the normal stuff like bend the legs, put them in, but they can. I mean, I built a few Bifacco, and actually, I think the even VCO
Mm,
is incredibly good. It's such a good oscillator.
yeah,
Really, right. I mean, it's got a sine wave on it for starters, which
is a thing.
will,
Yeah, we've talked
yeah,
about that before.
I know, and I know, and to be honest, slightly sidetracking here. I was watching. I found myself becoming lustful about the Buchla music easels.
Oh, don't. Well, I don't know. I can't. I shouldn't say anything.
And then what I realised is that the Danny Sound modules
Mm-hmm.
have got they're very similar. And actually, for example, the one which you've made recently, the
Yep.
Tombra,
Yep.
that one,
Timber. Yes.
that I might need one of those. I might need to make one because I've started to
I have an
realise
extra kit.
they come in. You got an extra
I got an extra kit.
kit?
No, I was going to build that for the Tokyo Festival coming up next
Yeah,
month, which is a free shout out
I'm
for the
glad to
Tokyo
see that you're
Festival.
not. Are you double checking these
Yes, of course.
rather than writing on each time? Do you still check them even though you've written that on before you put them in?
No,
Or
I
is
mean
that it
I
now?
know that these are what they're
You
supposed to be.
trust it.
I have found a batch of miscolored, like the bands were actually incorrect on the
Oh
resistors.
yeah,
So I always do this, and I've never found another one. But
yeah, because we had that was what because I was supposed to bring one to Berlin, wasn't I?
yeah,
The resistor where I had, and I actually found that again recently. I don't know,
what's
but yeah,
it's still floating around your lab? That's not a good thing.
yeah, it's bouncing around somewhere. Uh, yeah, so I mean, I've become OCD about resistors. And recently, I went back through a build because I won't mention what it is, but basically, I had a few. It was an early build. It's always been noisy.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have talked
I
about
know.
this
I know
one,
what you're.
and
I
basically,
know
I
the
went
one
back
you're
through it.
talking about. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and I've done some repairs to it. I did find a 10K in the place of a 1K or something, but there was an issue with the build guide, you see.
Yep.
And yeah, I can't go into it too much. I don't really like the idea of. But basically, there was two layers, and I was reading the one from what I was reading the wrong layer, so I made a bit of a mistake.
Sure.
But anyway, um, even with my really meticulous checking, that was quite an early build. But even with my meticulous checking, it is possible to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yep.
We're all human.
Yep. That's the
A lot
that's
of
the
it is
reason why
down
I
to,
really want a pick and place machine.
yeah. I'll tell you what I was watching earlier. Tom Whitwell doing an interview with Andrew Nonlinear Circuits. It's quite an old interview.
Nice.
It's like a couple of years old. And have you come across these NLC
I
modules?
have a couple actually. I have the phaser and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm really getting into this, the mentality behind them. And well, after I saw the interview with Andrew, I was like, this is really cool, And the fact that he's really into like doing workshops as well. And they've kind of got a monthly workshop, and I think from memory they got 45, and this was like a couple of years old, and they got like 45 people coming to it. Could be making that number up, but it seemed like it was a big workshop.
Nice. Well, I mean,
I really
that
enjoyed
sounds
it.
like a lot of fun. I would go to that. So.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I like the fact that I mean, he's a really clever guy. I mean, he's like literally. I don't know if he's done a PhD. I think he might have done, but he's like a really, like yeah, and it's all to do with chaos. And it's like he was explaining the difference between chaos and random,
Mm-hmm.
and it was quite interesting actually. And he was basically saying, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but random is something we can't explain, but one day we might be able to. And I was a bit like, and you just kind of think a part of you, like a nerdy part of you, thinks, wow, this is really cool.
Yep.
We're talking about quite existential things,
Yeah, I like
and
that
basically,
about modular in general and some of the folks
yeah,
involved specifically.
I know. And it's like the only thing that I've really found where I've actually, like today, for example, I've I've taken on a beta test. I've been for like Jason, there's 64 pixels.
Yep.
I don't know if have you come across any of his stuff
Yep.
like the CVOCD?
Yeah, I have two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I bought the RP and the MIDI strum, and I just thought, oh, I'll make this RP thing because everyone says that his stuff's good, and I massively underestimated it.
That's as far as
Looking
it
good,
goes, huh?
mate.
No, that's as far as it goes. I'm gonna have to get a macro camera.
Yeah, the lenses from Macro are like,
Yeah. Oh well. Trust me, it looks nice. These, however,
shiny.
I will set. I need to send you a set of these because these are the best.
Oh, mate,
Japanese,
they get up
super
close.
high quality Japanese tools. I do this, and it just glides along the board, and then this is just flush.
Oh,
There's
what really
there's
nice and smooth. Oh
nothing.
yeah,
There's
I tell
nothing
you
left.
what.
It makes cleaning a breeze. When you finally want to clean your boards, just scrub it all off. It's done.
Yeah, because when I first started cleaning, I was using like cotton. I don't know what you call them, but like cotton wool bud thing. Like Q-tip type things. Yeah. And the thing is, if you leave jaggedy edges, you end up once you look at it under the microscope. I know my early builds because they've
They're
all
all
got
fuzzy.
like a little bits of fluff on them. Yeah.
That's excellent.
It's just like, man, honestly, so I started going through them and cleaning them up, and you're just like, how could I allow this?
You gotta
I
go.
mean,
You gotta go
you,
back and get some tape.
you must have that, though.
Just some tape. I actually did that before as well. It's like when you get a bunch of ICs, sockets, and stuff sticking out the back. You go and
Yeah,
just stick a whole bunch of tape on it. Takes all the fuzz away, but that's not the point.
okay, that's a good tip. some people you see when you see so I remember when we were at Berlin, I was amazed by how you use everything as a table. Well, like normally I'm like really into like securing my builds and doing everything in one place. And when I saw you do it, you were literally like at the board hanging off the table, soldering like almost on your lap
Oh,
at
well,
one
that's
point.
that's my third
Yeah,
hand. I need some
yeah,
way.
that's it. That's what you called it.
Yeah. I mean, I only have the two, and I need a way to hold the iron, hold the board, and hold the solder all at the right time and at the right angle to get what I want. So I will. I don't know if I can move the camera easily, but no, that's not going to work. Maybe not. Oh, there you go. Okay. So what he's talking about is this, um, literally hanging off the side. And I will do this for larger builds. These small resistors I will actually, I mean, I need the asbestos fingers for this. But,
Oh yeah. Is that yeah? Is when you use the old serpent
whew, yep, that's hot.
charmer
But
technique?
can you see that? Yeah, I guess you could. I'll do one more. So the solder is just hanging off the edge of the table. And that's the third hand, but it's very steady that way. And then I can do this.
Don't think I'm going to adopt this.
No, there's no need. You can
I
do something else. Hello,
think I
pup.
probably got.
Radar's back from outside. Hello, hello. How are you? Yes, I'm still building.
So what else have you got lined up? Anything? You got loads, haven't you? I know you have.
Yeah, there's a fair bit here. The next thing on the bench is actually this, which I picked up a long time ago. Um,
Oh yeah.
dun, dun, dun.
Oh, is this a mark? Is it no?
No, no, it's
Is
not.
that?
It's still the
Oh,
V1, which is nice.
yeah.
My existing one has been heavily modified now downstairs. I tuned the filter to my liking, which is much more mellow. There's giant caps hanging
Yeah.
out the back, and I've done some resistor work. Oops.
So which ones have you got? You've got another unicorn boom to do.
Got another unicorn boom. I have
Yeah.
a huge number of the large format ornament and crime that are almost done. I just need
Yeah.
to center up the screens and finalize the faceplate hardware. So those are really almost done. And I'm going to be blowing those out for anybody that's interested at the Tokyo Festival. I'm thinking like maybe what US $100 each. just get
Good
them out the
choice.
door, because
It's
there's
worth
kind
it
of a
for one of
backlog, and
them.
I've explained to you before, Gareth, that I've got designs on um, making my own modules. So I mean I've got other things going on over here that are difficult to see because they're off camera. So yeah, I'm doing perf board stuff.
Oh yeah.
Coffee cup. That's as far as it'll go because of the power cable.
So are these like are you focusing on FM based stuff?
Well, one is, but ages ago, like literally 2 years, for those that know me, I'm also a kind of heavy into video gaming, and I do a lot of mods for consoles and such. But there's the YM series chips from Yamaha, the old FM series chips. Famous sounds from like the Mega Drive, Sega Genesis, a lot of the old arcade games, the X 68,000 computer in Japan, tons and tons of really fun sounds. Actually, Akemi's Castle is based off one of the YM chips as well. I think it's the Mega Drive one. And Akemi's Castle is great, but I think they missed the boat on one critical bit, is that nobody actually understands FM. And so exposing all those points, I mean, I've been able to make some great noises with it, but people I talk to say it's just obtuse. It's difficult to get around. It's hard to understand what does what and how things actually work. So
I did actually see. I don't know if you saw this, right? But Cuckoo put up a video very recently. It looks like. I mean, it sounds like a. I was loving it, and the thing is, it's your fault that I've got into FM, and and it actually feels like. I don't know if this is just because I'm getting into it, but it feels like everyone else is doing the same thing, cautiously getting into FM. So you did actually give me the FM Ogre, which is, incredibly powerful.
it's a fun toy. for
little
sure.
guy, and actually he's like, and like I think you told me the same funny story about the FM Ogre where well you gave it to me. I basically took it back from Berlin. I plugged it in. I was like, no idea what I'm doing with this. Better take it out. And I actually felt a bit ashamed because I'd taken it out. I was putting pictures of my Instagram, no FM Ogre in any shot at all, ever. And I was like, I'm trying to make excuses for it. And it got to the stage where the guilt built up. And I had to ask you, I had to say that. And it was like, you gave me a brief overview, and I kind of got a similar. I got some more details from you, and I did get some good, like decent FM sounds out of it. But there's no manuals on this thing out there. There's
For the
no.
Ogre or just FM in general?
Well, not well. Just yeah. I can't find anything on the Ogre. Um,
It's almost
there's
non-existent. There's a lovely old video where he's actually running a microphone through it. The guy who created it. But it's really one of the rare gems of the DIY scene. When you talk about DIY, that's the reason why I want to do it, is because you find these weird things that you can only get in a DIY form
yeah.
factor.
So the chip inside it, right? Do you have to have that chip program? This is the thing, because
Yeah.
there's a really nice guy on Facebook,
Hmm.
and he basically he had loads of modules, and he wanted to basically PCB panels
Yep.
that he had excess, and he stopped doing the building, and he was just gave them away, and he had an FMO PCB panels, and I actually said, I explained that I was kindly given a FMO by yourself, and he sent me a PCB panel for it, and I've looked at it, and I thought, okay, this will be fun to do. Try and find a bomb for it. Um, and then I did find something on one of the modular web pages, and it's got the chip, but the chip is says pre-programmed. Now, which made me think, yeah, what chip is it, and can you program it? Because I know
It
I
is.
programmed STM32, but
If yeah,
is it the same
if I
thing?
remember if I remember right, it's a PIC 18 class, 18F. That it may not be an 18, but it's definitely a PIC from Microchip. The actual company's name is Microchip.
Oh yeah,
So those exist. I actually had been using Microchip stuff. That was one of the reasons why it immediately piqued my interest, was because I'm familiar with the Microchip environment. NerdSeek actually runs on Microchip stuff as well, which is
you've got a microchip programmer,
I
have you?
have I have a number of them actually. Yes.
Yeah, because I saw one. I actually saw. Funny you should say. I actually saw in one of your pictures the other day that there was a microchip programmer on the desk,
Yep.
or maybe I'm getting confused.
No, it probably
Or
probably was.
I think it was
I keep
maybe
them
we were
around. I
chatting or
have I
something.
have drawers full somewhere, just off
Yeah,
just off here. There's a decent number of them around, and I use them all the time just for like regular people use Arduino.
yeah,
I used to call them the Dweenies.
yeah. So what's the architecture of the PIC chips then? Is it
It's very similar to the Arduino, the Atmel stuff.
oh is
There's
it?
nothing fundamentally different. It's just a completely different programming environment. You're not using the Arduino IDE for
Yeah,
anything. You're operating it's something called MPLab, and MPLab went through from version 8. They changed to version X because everybody was going X for some reason, and it was a
yeah.
nightmare of a transition. So much so that I kind of backed off for a little while and wasn't using it because it was just horrid. You have to go back to the old version of the IDE and the compilers, but it's now much more full featured, fleshed out, and I don't mind recommending it to anybody who's interested in real microcontroller programming. Um, and I'm still a bit of a snob there, I guess, because I said real.
Yeah, yeah, because I basically I've built a few things with different types of oh yeah, because what you saying that Arduino isn't a real
No,
microcontroller.
it absolutely is, but it's hidden from the user, right? You don't actually get. It's just too easy.
Yeah, no, fair
You
enough.
don't
I mean, I've done a
you
few
don't
like
get bare metal access. Like to turn pins on and off is an easy thing. in the Arduino world. It's actually pretty easy no matter what. But for some reason, it takes something like 7 cycles for it to toggle that pin from on state to off state or the other way around. It's something obscenely long, and it shouldn't be that way. So when you're trying to do super high speed stuff, for example, like those little programmable LEDs, they
Yeah.
actually those little LEDs for like what's the name of the module? The Euclidean circles.
Oh
Euclidean
yeah.
circles actually
Yeah.
has smart LEDs in it. It's all smart LEDs,
Yeah.
and they require a very strict serial timing in one direction. It's not a bidirectional communication. You're just blasting data at it, and it needs to be timed correctly. But if you don't use special super advanced Arduino techniques, you can't control it because the pins will toggle too slowly. And everybody's general sense of response to that is, well, you need to get a faster clock speed. Well, it's not the clock speed's problem. It's that whole extrapolation layer that they put in between the actual microcontroller and the Arduino development environment, all the libraries there.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, it's made for everyone, isn't it? I mean that whole interface. I mean, I've done a few things, like with Arduinos, and basically the code language is it's very easy to do. I mean, it's designed in that way so that everyone can access it. And what you're talking about is getting direct I/O, I suppose,
Right.
with your analog part. So it's a different application. But what about Teensy? Because that's basically
The Teensy is just a faster. That's what I mean. That's a faster.
that's what you're getting
That's
the
a
clock
faster
speed.
Arduino, essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
it runs the same code base libraries, but it's something like what 75 megahertz or something. It's much faster.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Am I the only one that does that? I liked having all my. I know they're not polarized, but I always put my resistors in the same way.
Yeah, I do it. I try to do it. I try and Dave's the guy who basically, he always goes on about you should read them left to right. But actually, I can't. Sometimes that rule doesn't work
No,
because
I just put them in a way that's going to be the most convenient to read when the product is assembled, I think.
yeah, yeah, you want as many identifying things as possible. But sometimes, sometimes on the resistors, you actually get some of the bands actually come off, don't they? A bit of IPA, a
Oh,
little bit
you're
of
scrubbing a little hard
bad
there, are you?
quality ones, I suppose. Yeah, have you got the Japanese, you got the Tokyo convention coming up, is that right?
That's correct. November. There's actually 2 right in a row, and this year it used to be the Kyoto Festival of Modular. Now, Kyoto's about 30 minutes from my house. I live in Osaka, so 30 minutes by train.
Right.
But they changed the K, and now it's no longer the Kyoto Festival, it's the Kansai Festival. Kansai is the general term for all of this kind of little area, southern Japan, so it includes Osaka and Nara
Yeah.
and everything else. And it's actually going to be a 25-minute walk from my house. So I'm super excited that I'll be able to have 2 shows in rapid succession because otherwise I really don't get a whole lot of contact. I was explaining. I think I was explaining to you before that the Tokyo Festival last year was the first time I was ever in a room with anybody who
Yeah.
even understood what CV meant. Besides, your not a resume, but your CV.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I found that quite strange at Berlin because when I was chatting to you, it seemed like really natural that you must have spoken to loads of people. But you said you don't.
I tend to be a chatty guy, as you
Yeah.
maybe a little bit too much sometimes, but
I think that that was funny actually because you said, "Oh, actually, you're not actually wearing a Hawaiian shirt today for the first
you got
time."
me out of bed.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, sorry, mate.
6 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Let's do a podcast." Okay. Well, I'm not going to say no.
I know. Yeah, actually, yeah. Sorry, I felt a bit excited.
Not at all. No, I mean this is The perils of time zones.
I know.
I
It's
keep,
actually
I
quite a
keep
tricky one
inviting
to
you over
book.
here. You need to come at some point.
I will do. There's a bit of, yeah. But what about the yeah, I was going to say about this module that I'm beta testing, this Noodle box.
That's fun.
So I showed you, but this is like a fantastic.
Wow,
It's
that's
basically
a large display, or is I mean I'm
I
assuming
know.
that's a display.
Yeah, let me I can get power to it and show you.
Oh, good night.
And then obviously this is like difficult to work because I can't actually see what I'm doing, but yeah, you've basically got this kind of crosshair kind of arrangement, and yeah, you can basically place on. You know, I haven't really used it well enough to use it in reverse, but you basically you can place your gates along. It's actually the thing that's really cool about it, right, is it's got four different layers,
Hmm.
which is basically four different CV gate outputs, and then for each layer you've got 4 pages. So you can and there's 32 steps in each page. So you can choose to chain them in any way you like. But also the thing that you can do between those each of its pages, you can mix CV between the current page and the other pages. So you can basically have some kind of like forward to back kind of idea going on.
Wow.
I've
Yeah.
basically been going through the manual, and like, I've been asked to beta test it, so I've been taking it like really seriously, going through the manual and making full notes of every possible thing because, as I said before, I made his RP, and I just kind of thought, oh, this is a small little build. I'll have this done and be using it,
Yep.
and then I quickly realised I'd massively underestimated what he could do. It's like a really powerful arpeggiating. Um, it's basically primarily designed in MIDI,
Hmm.
but because I've got the squat pyramid, the really cool thing about that is that you can actually output chords. So you can go like, oh, I put it into the third inversion of G minor, or something, and you push one button and it basically does it, all the way up through the scale.
That's
And
where I fall down. I have no formal musical training.
well, I did some piano a couple of years ago, um, uh, and basically soon realised that it had no. She was a very traditional piano teacher, and it had no relation to what I was doing in my music studio at all. And I actually realised that I was just letting her down every time because I wasn't putting in like 8 hours a day, which I'd have needed to keep up with the requirement. It was very serious. I mean, it would have been good if I carried on, but
You'll
the
regret it
point
later.
is that when you what's
I
that?
said you'll regret it later. That
Yeah, I know. But
that
the
was my
thing,
childhood as well. I did some.
oh right, did you do music when you were a child, like proper traditional music then?
Um, so my some of my earliest memories are actually running around in the hills. My folks were very into country music, and so we would
Oh yeah,
American country music. So they would go places, and we'd have big festivals. And of course, I wasn't actually playing, but everybody around was just picking around the campfire, that kind of stuff. But we always had
yeah,
musical instruments and piano in the house and stuff like that. And I think I was 11 or 12 or so. And of course, I started plunking out cartoon theme songs and such on the piano,
yeah,
and my mother immediately went, "Oh, we have a prodigy! Oh my God!" and give him a whole bunch of lessons.
yeah,
And she takes me to this older gentleman's house, which smelled like older gentlemen, and I did not enjoy going. I did not want to play scales. I wanted to play what I wanted to play, and
yeah.
it just didn't end well.
It's just got some kind of some crazy
I
thoughts
think I was
about where this is
I was
going.
traumatized, but years and years later, I'm like, geez, I really wish I had. And of course, I've subjected my own children to many years of music lessons. They play violin and piano and guitar.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing to start off with. I like to. I convince myself that my children, that they'll be around all this kind of music, whether it's good or bad, who knows? But I've been around it all, and it has to have some kind of input
Mm-hmm.
because I was basically getting my youngest lad like set up earlier with some of these little the racket kit stuff. Like I got the metal and the drum
Yeah, yeah.
had that set, and and also this what we made this Atari Punk console together.
Nice.
Well, basically, I mean, he was feeding the solder into the. It was really cute actually. I was holding the soldering iron and he was feeding the solder into it. That was what I came up with as the safest possible option. And we made an Atari Punk console together. Oh, that looks nice, doesn't it? You got aluminium panels.
Yeah,
That's the option,
they've
isn't it?
stopped
With
doing the wood ones,
Pastel. Yeah, it's nice.
but they are nice and thick.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? That's got to be like
Yeah,
over 3 mil, hasn't it?
yeah.
That looks really thick.
I don't have my calipers handy, but I will check that. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's pretty thick.
yeah, it's nice to see.
Not 3 mil.
Well,
It's a
actually,
3 mil LED, so it looks like 2.5.
I tell you, my unicorn boom's got a little bit of crack on it. Not. It's got
Really?
one of the,
Been playing out, have you?
yeah. No, it's got a little bit of cracked.
Uh, yeah, the plexi stuff is not great.
It looks it looks cool when you can see the content around the unicorn.
Yeah,
Um,
that way.
Yeah, I've been chatting to Sebastian quite a bit about projects he's got coming up on with Bird Kids. I mean, that stuff is so cool.
You probably know more about
I
it
mean,
than I
that's
do at this point. Mike's been in touch on and off, but they're not going to be coming to the Tokyo show this year. There's no way they can get their stuff together in time to make it correct. So it would be have to launch again in January, kind of deal. So they're gonna make one trip out of it, from what it sounds like, and then we'll be here.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
to be honest, I haven't been talking about the stuff which I haven't been talking about the Raven or anything like that. Mainly because I'm too scared to, in
yeah,
case I want to buy it.
I'm
But
well aware, right there with you.
yeah,
I had saved up a bunch of money for when they came here. I said, "Bring me one. I'll help fund your trip if you bring it in, if you can bring it into the country," because the Japanese just raised their tax rate, and they've consumption
uh,
tax on everything imported over anything over a Ichimayan, which is close to 100 US. The Raven is something that I really want to get a hold of, but I'm trying to get more just DIY sessions going on. And that was something else. That
yeah,
was something else they were really interested in helping out with. So I was going to do some of that, get some more people doing DIY, and
yeah,
then finally, I I had saved up money for that Raven, but of course they're not coming. So what I did is I went out and purchased a Bao. Have you seen this?
not
Not
sure.
sure. It's a 5 voice drum
I
module.
haven't seen
So
that. No.
it's full 5 analog voices for drums, and I have to pull it up for you here somewhere.
Yeah,
But I ordered one because I really wanted to have something new, and it's super expensive. Here we go.
yeah. I try and avoid anything with those criteria.
Well, it's five voices across
Oh
the
yeah,
module.
I've seen
Yeah.
this. This looks great.
So it looks really great. They're still just coming out with their version 2, and so I'm gonna get it hopefully by the time he's building mine right now, um, and I'll be bringing it to the Tokyo show. So anybody who's interested in hearing it, I figured I'd take one for the team, as it were. If it's awful, then I'll sell it. If it's great, then I'll be showing it off and not selling it.
I don't see that being. It looks because that's a big thing about drums. I mean, we love the unicorn boom, right?
Yeah.
But the size of
Yep.
it is big.
I
But that's kind of
Is it just me, or do we all keep looking at it and saying, you know what, I can do this in 2 HP?
Yeah. No,
I've been this close to just going back to Eagle and designing.
it's kind of a showpiece, isn't it?
Yeah,
You could
absolutely. Well,
separate it into like the
it's
boards. I mean,
fantastic,
there's a
but
lot of space.
like you saw, I took my my sample, the Bitbox, and I sampled the Unicorn Boom in a bunch of different knob configurations so that I don't actually have to put it in my portable rack because it's just too damn
Yeah.
big.
Mind you, the bitbox isn't small.
No, but I get
That's
so
the
much
thing.
more out of it. I can bring the Unicorn Boom,
Yeah.
my Basimilus, what else? The Akemi's Taiko, like just a whole bunch of stuff, and my Electri BR1. I sampled a whole bunch of stuff in, so it's now
Okay.
filled pretty well
Have you got
with a whole bunch of
have you
stuff.
got an OG ER1 with the red and grey one,
The
have you?
plastic,
Yeah.
old school, yeah. It's still
I used
here.
to
I
have one of
still
them.
use it.
I do regret that, and I do hear it in people's, and I know there's a bit of a secret weapon that you see in people's setup, especially the electro stuff. I
Yep.
like a lot of them still use it and they still rate it. I'm like, man. Every now and again they come up on eBay, and I keep thinking, should I? But I ended up with one of the which one was it? The EA one or something. I just
I
got
had one of
given
those
it.
as well, and I actually ended up selling it because there was so much
Yeah,
overlap with my modular.
yeah, yeah.
You can do a lot of stuff with it, but it's very very similar to a lot of the stuff you can do in modular. But the ER1 is just a killer. It's so
The
good,
hats are so
just
great,
so
aren't
good.
they? I, yeah, because I remember when back in like 2004 or something, three. I remember going to watch Radioactive Man play, and he he used a load of Korg stuff, and at the time, you kind of thought, at the time, I underrated it. You know, when you just think, I don't know if this is any good. It feels a bit plasticky, and you're kind of thinking, is this a toy? I
Right.
don't really know. And then and then and Keith Tenniswood said to me, yeah, I'm using it, and I'm like, okay, actually, kind of maybe I was wrong.
Yeah.
It is, and it is. It's kind of those classic things now where
It is very
everyone's.
legit.
It is. It's got those. It's got some because that crazy. If I remember correctly, it's got a crazy delay with a feedback on it that you can get this kind of crazy thing going
Yeah,
on.
none of the effects were very good, but they were
Yeah,
so out. You could really push the envelope
yeah,
what noise you could
yeah.
make
You
out of it.
could.
And I actually have a video that I need to make at one point. Um, People always complain that you can only make a certain type of music with the Electribes, and I've done some other stuff where I don't have it recorded yet, so I'm not going to say what it is. It'll be a surprise for another
Okay.
show. But I've done other things with the Electribe that you would not think possible.
Oh no, they are a classic. Because I went through a bit of a phase of looking into the sample as well. The
Well, the
because there was a time when I was looking into samplers,
sure.
and actually the Electribe keeps coming up. I ended up getting the Ritten Mark II, and then I've been using that, getting back into it.
Yeah, I've never been a sample guy. I don't. I mean, I loaded up my ESX Electribe with
Yeah.
samples that I liked, just drum samples. So old Lindrum stuff, old
Oh yeah.
808 type stuff. Um, but then that was it. Once it was loaded, it was kind of set in stone. It just had a different sound set than the
Yeah.
MX. And I still I don't do looping or anything like that. So I don't really. I mean, it's not that I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. Don't understand it enough
Yeah.
to use it live, I suppose.
I know. Well, it's a different workflow when you're, I mean, I'm toying with the one. I want to use the Rhythm live, but whether I use the samples in it, I don't know. I don't know. It could be too much.
Sure.
It could be a bridge too far. You never know. It is a different type of, people who are good at samples. They're good at samples. And the thing is, you want to like. I've been thinking about using amen breaks and stuff like that, and I'm just thinking, I'm just going to sound like I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. because I'm not a sample guy, you know. And then that's the danger. It's like you're crossing over. You got to do it well.
None of us know what we're doing though, so that's okay.
I know, I know. I think the thing is, I respect what I think what it comes
Somebody
down to
posted
is
on Instagram was this big long ramble about what the God, what was it, the that you shouldn't be in quest of perfection because you're never going to get there, and if you ever did, then that would be like the end of the world, type of deal. And like there's no chance of that for me. But my go-to phrase has always been that the goal is to suck less.
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so that's always my goal. I would like to suck less than I do today, tomorrow.
Actually, got this guy contacted me. So I was selling something on eBay, and we ended up chatting so much. He said, "Oh, you should have me on Facebook." I ended up chatting with this guy, quite a character, and he was like saying, "Oh, can you send us some of the music you've done?" And you're like, it's a bit complicated that question because you're just thinking, what kind of music do you do with that thing? And you're just kind of like, well, can we just pretend he didn't ask that and just I like it because of what it is. Is that all right?
It's kind of like
Who
somebody
knows?
asking you to explain FM synthesis.
Uh oh. Yeah. True.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So that's we've been talking for quite a while now.
I
For
know.
folks,
Rambling.
that's all right. For folks that are still sticking with us, we very much appreciate it. Hit like and subscribe. We will be back again on, I guess, a semi-regular schedule, right?
Yeah, tried
Maybe,
to. I think this could work.
maybe one of these days I'll finish this module too.
We'll be finished in no time.
It's almost done. Anyway, but yeah, I will be at the Tokyo Festival, the Kansai Festival, and